Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show and welcome to Walk On Wednesday. Walk On Wednesday is a day where we find somebody with an interesting story and we pick their brain. Today we are picking one of my favorite friends, Rasika of Bija Artisans. Welcome to the show, Rasika.
Aw, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we take every Wednesday we do this. We take a person. Hey, Rasika and her husband Doyal are good friends of ours, and
We had him on a few weeks ago, Doyle.
yeah, they're regular Zoomies, and so every Wednesday we take people that we know and we ask them some questions about what they're doing for about 10 minutes. And she has a very interesting clothing company called Bija Artisans. Can you share something about it?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. So Bija Artisans is a ethical, sustainable clothing brand that started about a year and a half ago, and we're slow fashion. So what we do is we partner with women artisans in India for both sustainable fabric and for garment manufacturing. So we get really cool upcycled or recycled clothing that's then made into new yarn and hand woven by women in Bangalore. And then we get these beautiful pieces made by women out in a rural village outside of Jodhpur to hand make. And it's all fair trade. They get 3 times their minimum wage and consistent employment year round. And it's a safe, clean, healthy working environment and even healthcare. And so it's also preserving the culture, this ancient, or not ancient, but this traditional textile industry of India is so colorful and vibrant. And so, we're just doing our small part to do something about, the fashion industry, which can be so environmentally degrading and has a lot of human rights issues. And so we're making our small change in the area that we can.
Oh, that's beautiful. You must love going to India and do you design the clothes?
Yes. So I'm just a designer. Somehow fell into it one way or another. A couple years back, I have no background in fashion design, but I somehow...
This is where you got to make up a good story. This is where you got to say, I've been meditating on fashion my entire
life. Oh, okay, yeah.
I know, an alien came down and
yes.
touched my head, and I started I was a fashion designer.
I knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of mystical in some ways, it definitely gives you faith when you have so many conceptions about what you're supposed to do in life. I've always been in the environmental field. That's my background, environmental science and policy. I've gone down the academic route, gone to grad school, worked on a organic farm, have worked in environmental nonprofits, but somehow I found myself as a fashion designer, but still, with the same values of trying to, do better for the planet and people. But yes, it is, to answer your question, it is so wonderful to get to travel to India and connect with these women and and yeah, just make a living and serve at the same time and be connected to Mother India.
Well, you know, it is some very stylish designs that you've created. I see them all, you know, so many of my friends wearing them. They look great. So how do people order? And I understand that there's some special offer that you may be giving, Wisdom of the Sages.
Yes, I'd love to extend to this lovely Wisdom of the Sages family a special 60% off discount, end of summer discount. Through, I guess we could say this Friday. I don't know, give some people some time if they're listening to this recorded. So you can go to bijaartisans.org.
Bija spelled?
bija artisans.org. And yeah, if you use at the checkout the discount code, all cap locks, Wisdom of the Sages, yeah, you can get that discount. And
Wait a second.
yeah, we'd love your support.
60% off.
Yes.
Raghunath may get
What do you
some
got
money.
for guys?
Well, I mean, it could be unisex. I have no judgment over here.
60% off, I'll wear a blouse.
We have some tunics that you might be able to, you know, make work. You have that style.
Raghunath can pull it off.
Yeah, definitely.
Need an elderly, slightly chubby model.
I'm always looking for models. So next photo shoot coming up, I'll reach out.
Okay. Now, another thing, one of the most important contributions to the Bhakti Center was really Rasika's inspiration and hard work, was the establishing the community groups that the Bhakti Center has, which are like, it's like these, you know, my thoughts about it was like someone may go to, like, say, a temple or something like that, like a Hindu temple or an ISKCON temple, Hare Krishna temple. And they may go there for like years and years and years and never really, perhaps never really get to know, make friends there or get to know people or open up their heart and really ask the questions, because the forum isn't really there for that. But by creating these community groups, it's groups that read and study together, that's led, but it's really a chance to for people to open up and so on. So can you just tell us a little bit about that and what's happening with that?
Yeah, well, you
I guess I summed it up.
described it so perfectly. No, there's small groups between 10 and 12 people or so, and just as you said, we get together and support one another on the spiritual path. I mean, Sangha is so essential, and getting to talk about, you know, your realizations, your struggles, your doubts, your fears, your struggles, you know, in community is so essential on the spiritual path. So that's what they're really designed for. And we have many, over a dozen, that are available for anyone to join anywhere around the world. That's available on Zoom. You go to bhakticenter.org, you can find the community groups page, and we have 2 levels of groups that we're offering. One is beginning bhakti. So probably many of you here, if you're tuning in regularly, you're probably way past the beginning bhakti level, or if you've just dropped in and you're like, what the heck is going on? That's a great starting point. We go through The Journey Within, which is a wonderful book about the foundations of bhakti by His Holiness Raghunath Swami. And so that's an 8-week group. And there's a few groups that start in mid-October. And then if you're, you know, have the basics under your belt and know the essential teachings, we have a next level group called Growing Bhakti, and those start end of September.
End of September.
Yeah, and they study a wide range of books, you know, Sri Upanishad, The Nectar of Instruction, a Krishna book. There's so many wonderful
Krishna
books.
book, you gotta get in on that.
Yeah. So please check them out.
Okay.
Can anybody join? Could I join? Or
You can totally join. You should lead one, but you're welcome to join. Yeah, of course.
that'd be great.
You know,
that is such a great, valuable service.
It is. And so of course those are going on through like Zoom conferences now.
Yes.
And,
Yeah,
and
all remote.
what I always loved, one of the things I've always loved about it is I see that like if someone's kind of was like new to the Bhakti Center, again, not only would you might not have a chance to ask all the questions you want, but you might not really make friends.
Yeah.
And so when people started going to community groups, they would come to the Bhakti Center for some other event, for some festival, and they would already know people there. and have someone to talk to and not feel, kind of like
Exactly.
isolated in any way. And that's actually, we may be talking about that in today's show, just like the importance of associating with other people, other bhakti yogis, how that's plays an essential role in the practice. So, Rasika, thank you so much for joining us. We got community groups coming up in September and October. Go to bhakticenter.org for that. We got a 60% discount.
Oh my goodness.
They're just going, it's insane. And
Okay, I know that reference.
Raghunath knows that. New Yorkers like us, old New Yorkers like us, will remember that. But also, so yeah, with the wisdom of the sages, all cap locked. Code, you can get a 60% discount at bijaartisans.org.
Yes.
But you got to do by Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, let's make it end of the day on Friday.
Okay, so get right on that. Ladies and men, possibly.
All are welcome. Come as you are.
Okay.
Thank you so much to both of you. I'm so grateful for you
gonna
inviting
stay
me.
for the show? You don't have to. This is a very awkward time.
No, I totally want to say I'm wide-eyed and enthused right now getting your association. So I need to hear more.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to start with our invocation. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta priyesva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmanatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Text 11.
Just 1 second. Mary, is it just me or does Raghunath sound a little muffled?
Muffled?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought he sounded okay.
Okay, maybe it's just me. All right, let's go.
I can speak louder. We're all aware of that. Okay, text 11. All the different kinds of worshipers. So we just read that big verse, akama sarvo kamava moksha karma udaradi. Why don't I read that again, number 10?
Okay. Well, let's go even back further and say that this chapter opened up with like a long list of various devas, various demigods that one could worship with the goal of attaining this or that material benediction. So a long list was given like that, but it wasn't being recommended. It was going to be contrasted with what we're hearing now. And we came to the verse that Raghunath's referring to now, which was text 10. You want to read that?
Yeah. Okay. A person who has broader intelligence, whether they be filled with material desires, without any material desires, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the supreme whole, the personality of Godhead. So these are the people that, it doesn't matter where you're at in this world. You can be riddled with desires. You can be over the material world and just want liberation. All these people, if you just worship Krishna, you'll get everything you want anyway. We were saying yesterday how on your spiritual journey, you're going to be asked to choose Maya or Krishna. At a certain point, there's going to be forks in the road. Do you still want this thing that you're holding on to, or do you want Krishna? And as we let go of the things that we're holding on to, if we choose Krishna, first of all, we end up getting them back anyway in a more refined, in a more purified form. Krishna's just stripping us away of that ego that comes with that stuff. And I think we've all done this with relationships, perhaps, or with our career, or our connection with money, or our connection with our maybe our sexuality, or something where we said, okay, I'm going to offer this up. And then it's not like it goes away and you're a nobody anymore, but you get it back. Krishna gives it back in a clean, maybe you gave up that job you were so attached to, but you get another job where you might not even be making as much, or you might be, but it's so fulfilling. I mean, Rasika just spoke of, well, I went to school for sustainability and agriculture and all these things, and now she's doing fashion. So she gave up maybe one part of her life, and then that doesn't mean now I'm going to just sit at home because I'm not doing that, but she got back something perhaps even more fulfilling that you didn't even know was just right around the corner, and you never even dreamed of it when you were signing up for your college application. Who would dream this up? But, you know, in Rasika's case, she was just dedicated and focused to serving Krishna. And Krishna's like, okay, you got a good plan there. Sustainable farming. Try this one on. Sustainable clothing. And there from left field, Krishna, you know, who knows? Who knows what Mara is going to become? She started off as a chef. Who knows? What do you think, Stu?
Are you saying that she should give up being a chef and then see what happens?
No, I'm just saying you never know what Krishna's got planned.
Okay. So you trust, you have a little trust. Yeah,
You have a little trust and you move forward. And Krishna's got a greater plan. I'm really convinced of this in my own life experience as well. Like, no one can preach this to me. Krishna's got a plan so much greater than we could ever imagine. It might be what you think it is, or it might come right around and sneak up on you and like, boom, this is the plan. It becomes very magical.
All right. So again, there's so many verses about how one might apply the Vedic teachings to worship different devas, to achieve different material desires. But here it's been saying, if you're a little bit broad, if you have a little broader intelligence, you realize that ultimately and this is pure straight Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, that all of whatever the devas are giving, and everything that we receive in life, you know, again, the rain, the sun, the earth, and all these things they're ultimately coming from that original divine source, so Sri Krishna. So why not just approach that divine source directly? And if you can do that with and it uses this word tivrena bhakti-yogena, if you can come to the point where there's this word tivrena means like, again, like fierce or like intense, you know, with like really focused, concentrated bhakti. Well, then that's what the more intelligent person is doing here, the person that's seeing things more clearly. So then one might ask the question, well, so if I just worship the devas, and if I continue that path of just worshiping the devas, will this tivra bhakti, this focused, intense devotion, will it naturally just develop as a result of my continuing with the demigod worshiping? And this text 11 is an answer to that question.
Text 11. All the different kinds of worshipers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfectional benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the personality of Godhead, only by the association of pure devotees of the Lord.
Okay, so
the answer is really no, unless you get a liberated soul.
That's the point. And so this is something, you know, the idea that bhakti is something that is transferred from the heart of one devotee to another, right? That
crazy side note question, Kaustubha. Right. Are the demigods pure devotees, or are they just doing their thing?
Well, they may or not be. Now we can read through, like, say, in Bhagavatam.
Is that a good question? Are the demigods pure devotees?
Yeah. I mean,
I think Brahma might be a pure devotee.
Well, Brahma is the head of our sampradaya, right?
Yeah.
Of our lineage.
He's a pure devotee. He's good.
He's good. Okay.
He's good.
But like,
there's so many demigods out there. There's like 33 million, I think.
Well, they're all, you know, they all have different. They're all individuals. You know.
Yeah.
They're all individuals. They're all special for sure.
Right.
They're all individuals. Now, in the last chapter is described that Brahma, who we're talking about right now, how after scrutinizingly studying the Vedas 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Concluded that ratiḥ, or attraction to Krishna is the highest perfection of Dharma, right? The highest perfection of yoga. That you develop this attraction, actually, that you know, it's sometimes this word attract, you know, the word Krishna literally means the attractor, right?
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes there's this analogy of like magnets. You know, one magnet will attract another magnet, or will attract like iron filings, right? You ever play with that kind of stuff when you're a kid, Raghu?
My kids play with magnets all the time.
Did they have iron filings?
They don't. They don't. I have that guy that you made mustaches with.
Yeah.
With filings. You have that.
Yeah, when I was a kid. And so, you know, like a magnet will attract the iron filings. So like, just like Krishna will attract, you know, like all the jivas, all the atmas, all the living beings. But, you know, or one magnet will be attracted to another. But if there's some rust on that magnet, you know, they can lose there. But you can file that, you know, that magnet down, and it will be attracted again. So in a sense, we're like a magnet that's not being attracted, or we're meant to be like an iron filing. And it's the practice of yoga that kind of gets rid of our rust so that we can reconnect. So rati, and this rati, you know, this is where the practice goes from like exoteric to esoteric, right? That we're talking now beyond just, say, becoming free of the influence of the material energy, right? Which is what the path of yoga is meant to help us do. Get beyond all our illusions, get beyond all these false desires, get beyond the false ego, the false conception of who I am. Stop identifying with the body and the mind, and become free from the ups and downs of this world and transcend it all. That's all I would call that the exoteric part of the teachings. But then this rati, this attraction to Krishna in particular, now we're talking about the esoteric part, and the most beautiful part, maybe the harder part to understand, but the most beautiful, fulfilling part of bhakti. So Brahma says, if you really want to know where all of this leads, I've studied the Vedas 3 times, I've scrutinized it. It all concludes with developing one's attraction for God, you know, one's attraction for Krishna, this rati. Now in this verse that we just read, text 11, it introduces a similar term, bhāvo, right? Spontaneous attraction or special feelings, you know, special, sometimes the word mellows is used, you know. Bhavana is like the food or the mood or a feeling associated with one's particular action. And it's saying here that this bhava develops only by the grace, only by the association, only in connection to someone that's already got it, you know. You meet someone that's got it, and by their example, by their association, or even you could say like by their blessings, that one can kind of develop a similar bhava or similar mood. It's attained through, in this verse it says, Bhagavat acalo bhāvo, unflinching, acalo, right? Chala means like flickering. True, Raghu? You with me?
Achala.
Yeah, so achala means not flickering.
Not flickering.
Yeah, so acalo bhāvo, developing this unflinching attraction to God. It's not there one day and gone the next. It's not something that I momentarily have, but it's like it's constant. And it says that is yad bhagavata sangataha. It's attained through the association of pure devotees. That's how one gets it. And you know, which reminds me, when you and I were monks, right? You were in your band at the time, but still living as a monk. And we would go to Vrindavan every year, right? And we would study. And one of the books that we'd study was The Nectar of Devotion, which is the summary study of the essential book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami's really important Sanskrit work about, it's a study of Bhakti Yoga. And the book kind of opens up with saying that pure bhakti, pure devotion, that it has 6 different symptoms, right? You want to reel them off for us, Raghu? I know that you study this well.
All right, let's see. Kleshagni. Is that the
Yes.
first one?
Yes, Kleshagni.
It immediately removes material distress.
Yeah.
So bhakti, when you apply it to your life, and some of us have experienced that too. Like I'm going through some distress, and I dive into bhakti, and this distress just goes away. It's quite powerful. Sometimes it's just from regulating our senses. Our senses are so unregulated that they've caused me distress. But sometimes it just like punctures into this whole new pool of joy that I've been missing out on.
Pool of joy.
Some pool of joy. Sometimes it just makes me see my life in perspective, you know? And we were saying yesterday on the Sweet Baby Krishna how everything is so subjective in this world, isn't it? Like, I'm going through a hard time, but are you really going through a hard time? There's people that are really going through a hard time. You know, we talk about,
Sure.
You know, sure. We don't have to get into it, but there's people that are really going through a hard time.
Yeah. Do me a favor, Rogu. Just pull your microphone closer. I think
closer?
You got it. Yeah.
It's okay. There we go. How's that?
Much better.
All right. So anyway, yeah. So when and then another thing, so you see yourself in perspective to the whole world, the universe, etc. So that's another reason it gets you out of the thick of the thin when we go through our stuff. It allows us to zoom out and see our life in perspective. It allows us to see our hard times as this is a storm that I'm going through. So yeah, this Klesh Agni, or relieving of us of material distress. That's the first one.
Okay.
Give me a hint for the second one.
Well, when Srila Prabhupada writes about it, the proof of it is in the behavior of his disciples. Do you remember that? Like what they give up and how they just kind of leave things behind.
Sudurlabha. No,
Shubhada.
Shubhada. It means the beginning. It's the beginning of all auspiciousness.
Yeah.
So a lot of Americans, we don't use this word auspicious. It must be a British word or something. But when you add bhakti to your life, it is like hitting the first domino of all good fortune that happens in your life. Here's another interesting thing. When you leave the association of devotees, it's the beginning, the first domino of so many inauspicious
All
things.
inauspiciousness. Yeah,
Right, it is.
Yeah.
I've seen it again and again. People take a little door out. Well, you know what? I'm just going to step outside this door. And they give up the company of devotees. And now some of you guys are new to this and you'd be like, well, you know, whatever. What's going to happen in our bhakti little group here is you start floating and floating and floating. And you don't even realize it because it's very slow moving, like the hands of a clock. And then when you step outside, you realize, you float, you just like, you're in a very dark place. The material world is a dark place. The bhakti community lifts us out of that dark place. And it happens in such a gradual way, you don't even witness it. But you do once you walk out of it. You know when you really notice something like this, Kaustubha? If you've ever gone to a ratiḥ festival. Okay. I remember the first time I went to Los Angeles ratiḥ in 1988. I went while Youth of Today and my band was on tour. And so if you've ever been to Venice Beach, it's like everybody's roller skating in a bikini and there's a guy, you know, juggling fire, and it's just like a beach. It's a whole crazy scene. So the devotees make this beautiful ratiḥ festival down the pier. And then they have, not the pier, but the boardwalk. Mm-hmm. They have a giant tented in village of all like prasad, like good food or some type of cultural music. Shelter played one year also. Oh. And they have books and some Indian dance and kirtan. It's a whole Indian, it's a cultural bhakti festival going on. And it's so wonderful, and you feel so high and you feel so happy. And you feel like, well, Venice Beach must be like this. And then you step outside of that little circle of tents and you realize, oh, this is crazy. You start to experience what the material world is compared to the spiritual world, even though they're side by side. Giving up the company of devotees is like hitting the domino of inauspiciousness. Whereas entering into devotional service, keeping great souls in your life on a regular basis, having a sangha like we have, I feel very fortunate. Like, not because I'm giving you guys something. I feel fortunate for myself that I'm getting something from this sangha. I feel so fortunate. And if we can look retrospectively, like where we were a year ago or 2 years ago before we had that Sangha, it was different. It was different. So I'm super grateful that we get to do this every day. So that auspiciousness, that's number two.
Well,
Sorry,
you know, no,
long-winded.
actually, I'd love to go more into it, because when you started speaking, I thought you were even going to go into like take it another direction, or not another direction, but like a different facet of that. And that is that I think both of us have seen that, you know, when you're new to bhakti and you start to meet people that are into it, then you kind of, I think it's common that someone says, my God, these people are incredible, right? It's like their motives are so pure, and they've got an answer for everything, and they've got such a wonderful lifestyle, and they've got, you know, a beautiful community, and this and that. And it's very appealing, and because it's also fresh and new, you're full of appreciation. But then as you continue to associate with those same people, our natural kind of tendencies that we begin to see the faults, right?
Our
Maybe
natural, unnatural tendency.
okay, yeah, but sure, the natural, unnatural, right?
tendency. It's
Yes.
the saddest thing when we bring our material shortcomings into sacred circles. Like, I tend to find fault with people, and then I bring that fault finding into sacred circles.
Yeah.
And we're like a bull in a china shop, just wrecking, you know, all our spiritual work that we've done. So yeah, it's a very, very delicate place. All of us are in, especially if you're listening on Zoom, because we're doing this so regularly, or if you're one of the others that listen regularly. Keep these sacred relationships sacred, and keep the criticism, the fault finding, the resentment, keep them far away from your spiritual circle. Keep this very sacred, because it has an incredibly detrimental effect. And it's not welcomed by that divine energy. The divine energy doesn't allow that in. We're kept on the outside. And I can see to myself when these habits that I've cultivated for lifetimes of being snarky, nasty, fault finding, I see that sneak in. I have to catch myself. I put up a lot of trip lines. Like, if I'm feeling angry at a person, resentful or a person, or I feel a person's hurt my ego, and like all these red flags will come up. Raghunath, you're off track. You've got to be more humble. You've got to say you're sorry. You've got to be quick to forgive this person. And it's the only thing that keeps us around. Because once I get a little bit too brash in sacred circles, I'm ejected. I'm ejected. The divine energy.
Ejection seat.
It's the ejection seat, yes.
But you know, I see it kind of commonly works in 3 stages, where when you're new to it all, and you have nothing but appreciation, right? You're seeing it from a certain angle, and you feel, maybe even your perception of who you're dealing with is exaggerated in a sense, right? Maybe not. Maybe it's actually reality, and you're actually seeing it for what it is. But maybe it's a little exaggerated. But then as you get closer, then you begin to see the faults, and those faults you may experience them as saying, what a disappointment. You know, I thought I had finally found some good people, but now I see they're just like everybody else. They've got just the same problems. They got just the same attitudes, and they got, you know, and that, and then like the kind of behavior that you're saying right now, like the snarkiness, and, you know, real devotees, they don't leave room for that in their life. You know, they see that association as precious. Now, this is the point. There's a 3rd stage, right? The 3rd stage is, the first stage is I don't see any faults in these people, right? And then the 2nd stage is, oh my God, these people have faults too, you know, and they're a big deal, and they're a huge disappointment. And now I'm just going to totally turn my back on them and separate myself from them, or I'm going to get snarky about them or criticize them or whatever. But the 3rd stage is when one's advanced more in bhakti, I feel that they may still see those same faults, but the importance of those faults just shrinks down. It's like, you know what, maybe they do have this fault, but I'm not even concerned about that fault because there's so much good there, right? because there's so much good that fault is like, before I saw that fault as a really big thing. Now I see that fault as very insignificant.
And that's when we start to transcend that fault-finding mentality.
Yeah.
It just put it in perspective.
Yeah. So it's not like you have to adopt some kind of blindness.
Sure.
But it's just a different perspective. That
It's
even though this person, a change of heart, even though this
chapter,
even though this person has, some particular shortcoming, or even though I may disagree with them about something, you know what? There's so much what we share in terms of our common sense of devotion, our common sense of values, etc. That means so much more to me than whatever this apparent fault may be. That I'm not even, I'm not even practically concerned with this fault anymore. I can tolerate it, or I'm patient with it, or it just is not so important to me, because I really appreciate this person's heart, and their endeavor and their service and what they're trying to do with their life. Maybe what they haven't completed, but what they're trying to do, I appreciate that. And it's so rare that someone is taking up this endeavor, which actually kind of brings us back to the these 6 symptoms of pure devotional service.
Thank you. Sorry about that. A little detour.
No, it was a good detour.
Okay.
So let's keep going, because one of them is going to have to do with, well, anyway, I won't say because we're quizzing you right now.
Okay. It's so we said beginning of all auspiciousness, destroys material distress.
Shubhada, and then
is the only way. Sri Krishna Karshini.
Okay, you jump into the end. Okay.
I'm jumping to the end. Okay, what's the proper order?
The next one is that it derides.
Oh, it derides even the bliss of liberation.
Yeah.
Now, this is a hard one, I think, because a lot of people in the material world are in pain, financially in pain, emotionally in pain, relationally in pain, or they feel like, I just want to get some peace in my life. So the idea that there's different nuanced types of spiritual pleasure is confusing. Like, isn't it just God or the devil? Can't we just think in the binary way like that? No, actually, there is this idea of kaivalya or of moksha, or of I want to free myself from this material body and just feel spirit and peace. But they're saying here that peace that you get from separating yourself from the material frame is like a tiny drop compared to the ocean of the nectar of devotion. So moksha lagu krit. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm remembering this from 30 years ago.
Well done. Okay. And then the next one, which is really the reason why we brought this all up in relation to the verse that we just read.
Hints, please.
Well, the verse that we just read said that bhakti doesn't come just from any other kind of practice, but it comes from the association of a devotee.
I can't remember. Okay.
Sudurlabha.
No.
Yes.
Oh, it's rarely achieved. It's
rarely achieved.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to get bhakti.
Yeah.
You can't just go. It's not your great intelligence. It's not from going on pilgrimage. It's not from going to a kirtan per se. It's not from doing all the things that seems like I'm doing all the right things. You need the blessings of great devotees. And that's the Sri Krishna Karshini. That is the only way to attract Krishna.
Well, two reasons are given for why it's so rare. One is that what we're discussing today, right? That you can only get it from someone that's already got it. You can't just, work hard at it.
You can't work hard. You can't study books. Now I have bhakti.
Yeah.
It's got to be given from a person that has bhakti. Isn't that cool?
It radiates from one person, from one heart to another. It is cool.
Oh, I like the way you put that. Did you just make that up on the spot?
Kind of. I don't know.
It radiates from one heart to another heart.
The heart-to-heart thing.
What do you think about that, Mara?
She's feeling it. It's radiating from you to her right now, from her back to you.
And then, Go on.
So that's one reason why it's very rare. And then the second reason is, you mentioned as well, is that, and this is very esoteric, right? It's very esoteric, but the fact that because it controls Krishna, right? When you actually have pure devotion, right? It controls Krishna. He is, we could say voluntarily, but like once you volunteer, then you're actually like vulnerable, right?
Right.
This is one of the, aspects of like the theology of bhakti, that the great saints and sadhus and yogis, they meditate on this point as just like one of the greatest mysteries and beautiful wonders of all existence, that the most powerful, the source of all power, voluntarily, in a sense, becomes vulnerable to the devotion or the love of another. Right? And so that if you love, and we see in this world that if you really love someone, you become vulnerable to them. You'll do whatever they say because you love them so much, And so Krishna, it says, he'll easily give material benedictions. The devas can just give you those, and that's what this chapter was saying. Worship this one, you'll get that. You want some rain, you can get it. You want the birth of a healthy child, you can get it. You want a good spouse, you can get it. You worship this deva or that deva for that, it'll work. Even liberation, right? Even the freedom or the bliss of liberation, Krishna will relatively easily give that. But if he gives pure bhakti, well, now he's under your control, So he's gonna very rarely give that. And in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is again translated as the Nectar Devotion, to prove this point, to help establish this point, Rupa Goswami quotes Bhagavatam from the 5th canto, 6th chapter, 18th verse, where Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. Now, Maharaj Parikshit is the grandson of Arjuna, and I guess the grandnephew, you'd call it, of the Pandava brothers, who had such an intimate relation to Krishna, who had such deep devotion for Krishna. And this is the verse. He says, "My dear King Parikshit, the Supreme Person, Mukunda, Krishna, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties." So Krishna was born in the Yadu dynasty, and then the Pandavas had their own dynasty, Kuru dynasty. He is your spiritual master. He's your worshipful deity, but he's also your friend and the director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or a servant. This means he worked just like ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. Right? Pure bhakti, because look, he'll become your servant if you start to do this, right? And once you lose interest in everything but serving God with love, God becomes vulnerable to that, controlled by that. And then in the commentary, this is what Srila Prabhupada writes. He writes, although Lord Krishna did not appear in the Kuru dynasty, the Pandavas dynasty, he was so obligated to the Pandavas' devotional service that he acted as a maintainer of the family and spiritual master of the Pandavas. Although he took birth in the Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna was more affectionate to the Pandavas. By his actions, Lord Krishna proved that he was more inclined to the Kuru dynasty than the Yadu dynasty. Indeed, Lord Krishna, indebted to the Pandavas' devotional service, sometimes acted as their messenger, and he guided them through many dangerous situations. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit should not have been saddened because Lord Krishna did not appear in his family. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always inclined towards his pure devotees. And by his action, it is clear that liberation is not very important for the devotees. Right? For many yogis, that's seen as the ultimate goal. Lord Krishna easily gives one liberation, but he does not so easily give one the facility to become a devotee. Muktim dadati karhichitsma na bhakti-yogam. Directly or indirectly, it is proved that bhakti-yoga is the basis for the supreme relationship with the Supreme Lord. It is far superior to liberation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, mukti is automatically attained. right? You don't even have to focus on it. You just get it. If you have bhakti, you get liberation automatically. It comes with it without any extra endeavor. So
This opens up all these super important points. It's really the reason why we're doing the show here is one, the association here on a regular basis. You know, if we can just take this, like what you're saying right now, like dead serious, like, okay, I'm going to hear every day. I'm going to chant every day. What happens over time, those hands of the clock that you never see move are moving so slow. Krishna's luring us right out of the material world. You should understand that this is service. We're rendering service to the great souls, meaning the previous masters, just by hearing the Bhagavatam. Don't think that this is not also service. You're sacrificing an hour of your time just to hear the teachings of great souls.
It's you're offering your mind, right? You're offering your time, you're offering your mind.
And there's going to be a lot of times where it's very inconvenient and you're still here. It's during those sacrifices that we start to overcome the mind. And all of a sudden, a lot of you guys who've been to India with me, or like I'm looking at Kelly and Mara and Nancy, and you guys have been to India, you're going to go back on pilgrimage. It's going to be a whole different pilgrimage. You're going to see that in a whole different way. Even if you're not going on pilgrimage, relationships change. What happens is Krishna is luring you out of the material world. You'll still be functioning in the world. You'll have relatives and friends and work, but it's not going to be the same anymore. Everything is going to be slightly refined and upscaled, and you're going to actually transform as a person. And it's just by this regular hearing and chanting and associating with people. I know just by associating with Kaustubha, it starts to change. It starts to change me. And if I can keep people like that in my life on a regular basis, my whole universe starts to change. I feel like very important. Somehow, and I bet you too, Kaustubha, we've orchestrated our lives that all the people that we deal with on a regular basis, I know in my sense, it's either like students who want to know about Bhakti or people who are already into Bhakti. And it gives me a soft cushion where you don't have to deal with abrasive minds, abrasive personalities of the material world. Sometimes we have to, but it's not what I want on a regular basis. And so Krishna's taking control of our desires because we're offering them to Krishna. And then he's going to give you whatever you want. Don't ever sweat like, oh, I'm going to have to give this up. You're going to get that back in such a more beautiful way. And it's the rarest thing, Krishna's saying here, because Krishna becomes vulnerable to the devotee. What a crazy concept. Krishna becomes vulnerable to you. And so he doesn't become vulnerable unless he takes away and you voluntarily relinquish these things, right? Just like I will share with Kaustubha, or he'll share with me because I trust him. I don't think I'm gonna share something with him and he's gonna blab about it to everybody, and vice versa. There's a type of trust we have. So Krishna too doesn't give himself unless he sees like this person is trustworthy. This person is not living in his ego. This person's, huh?
I'm sorry. It's just such a, I don't know, almost delicate point, but very beautiful point. I once witnessed something.
Please tell.
Which was, it was my guru's birthday, and a very dear friend of his visited. And it was kind of like a public celebration. And people were sharing their hearts in different ways. And this friend of his had come from a distance to see him and maybe offered him some special gift or so. I don't remember exactly. But my guru's response was, he turned to him and in front of everyone, I don't remember exactly how he phrased it, but it was something that I've seen and read about in these sacred texts. But he said, more or less what he said to him is, it was almost like he granted him a boon, but he said, like, whatever you want, I will do. It was almost like I grant you one favor or something like that, right? Like, and whatever you ask me, I will do it. And I'd never seen anyone do that before. You know, just say, anything that you ask of me, I will do. And I saw the face of his friend when he said that. And it was almost like I'd never seen this person has, it was Shivaram Swami, some people may know him, and who's like, he's got a very grave demeanor about him.
Right.
And when he said it, I'd never seen his face like that, but it was like a child's face. And it wasn't because, oh, now I can get something, but it was like the love.
There's like a sweet exchange.
Yeah, it was the
that
love
only happens when people just are incredibly vulnerable.
That level of trust and vulnerability to another it demonstrated the love and the trust that was between the two, that I love you so much, anything you ask of me, I will do. You know, we see that also, you know, when Raghunath Swami visited Bhakti-tirtha Swami on his deathbed, and Bhakti-tirtha Swami said, can I ask one favor of you? You know, Radha said, anything you ask me, I'll do. You know, so yeah, but Krishna becomes vulnerable. When the heart is pure, then Krishna just lets go of everything. And again, that's really one of the great mysteries of existence for the devotees. But we've only got a few minutes left, and we've got two more.
Krishna is really trying to like have, you know, cut the fat, so to speak, shed those external layers to get to that jewel. All right,
So we've done Kleshagni, that it destroys all suffering.
Kleshagni, Shubhada.
Shubhada, it's all auspicious.
Moksha
Laghu
derives liberation.
Sudurlabha,
Very difficult to achieve.
very rarely attained.
Krishna, Sri Krishna Karshani, the only means.
That's the last one.
Krishna. Okay.
There's one in between.
What is it? I can't remember.
Sadrananda Visheshatma. I don't remember that one.
Chandra Langa Vish. I can't remember that.
That is condensed bliss, or that it just delivers some uncommon, unparalleled level of happiness.
Can we say, can that only be felt? I've actually felt incredible bliss as a devotee. Do you think I'm feeling just like a piece of that, or do you think that it's?
I think you're deeply absorbed in it, Raghunath.
No, I'm not saying like I'm there, but I will say that I've had times in my spiritual life where I feel like incredibly blissful. Do you think we just get like almost like instead of watching the movie, you get the trailer? Do you think we get the trailer of that, or do we have to be on the highest level? Maybe I've never even gotten close to that yet. You know,
I think we haven't gotten close to that, but that what we experience, you know, Nectar Devotion is also going to talk about something called shadow attachment. That like, you know, you taste something that's like it, something that's very like it, that really encourages you to continue on that path.
There you go. There you go.
And then the final one is Sri Krishna Karshani, that it even attracts Krishna, right?
Pure devotional service even attracts Krishna. What does that mean?
It means that, well, he's generally like the central.
Does that mean it's the only way to attract Krishna?
That's another way to say it. Sure,
okay.
I'm a better way to say it. Yeah, it's the only way to attract him. He has no interest in your power, in your strength, in one sense, like in any of your opulences and in your beauty or this or that. What he accepts is your devotion. And when those things are offered with devotion, then he's very attracted to them. Right? He's generally the attractor. He's Krishna. Literally means, you know, the all attractive one. He's the one he's the center. He's the one that does all the attracting. He attracts again, like he's the magnet and we're their iron filings. But devotion is so powerful. Pure devotion is so powerful that the attractor actually becomes attracted. And so who's the example of that?
The attractor becomes the attracting.
That the attractor gets attracted to someone else. Because he is called, the main attractor moving around the material world is Cupid, right?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We fall in love and we get attracted. We lose all our common sense, and you know, Cupid can hit us with his arrows and do that. But Krishna is called, Krishna is called Madan Mohan, because Madan is the Sanskrit name for the Cupid, and Mohan means to enchant or bewilder. So Krishna is so attractive that he can bewilder even the bewilderer, who is Madan or Cupid. But
Radha.
Yes, Radha is her devotion, because she is the very embodiment of pure devotion, that she attracts even the attractor of Cupid. So she's Madan Mohan Mohani.
It's a great concept. Cupid makes you fall in love. It's funny. And then Krishna even attracts Cupid. And then Radha even attracts Cupid. Krishna attracts Cupid.
This is what the great saints, as they're reading these books, this is what they're contemplating. This is their wonder. This is their absorption. This is their joy. You know,
we're doing it every day, Kaustubha.
Right.
Every day. And I'm going away this weekend, and we're still doing it.
All right.
Friday. Wait, today's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Save us some time.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and thanks to Bija Artisans and Rastika. We're really. Do you mind if I say I'm really proud of you? Is that okay? Does that sound weird? I'm proud of you. Good job. And we love you, and we love your husband, and thanks for coming on our show. And thanks to everybody on Zoom who listen on a regular basis, and thanks for the others out there. If you're one of the others, but you want to join us live at Zoom, just email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. She will make you jump through various hoops to get the secret codes so you can enter into our Zoom family. Also part of our Zoom family, actually you don't even have to be part of the Zoom to support us. If you want to support us, this is a community-supported podcast. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/wisdomofthesages. And the payoff for that is you get entered into a vault of spiritual goodies. We have yoga classes happening on a regular basis.
What's happening today, Mara?
All right, so we have Michelle Berger teaching a gentle yoga class at 6:30 a.m. And then there's a Bhakti recovery group meeting at 1 p.m. today.
Bhakti recovery.
And at 6 p.m. Kumiji is teaching.
What a day.
Yeah.
It is a full-on Wednesday. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Now we take that namaste and we start to move our namaste back and forth.